I just started the stream and I already don't know how to hand. How does hand work? I feel like I just keep drawing the fingers way too thick. I'm doing alright, Self. How are you? As of usual, I am struggling to draw an artist's worst nemesis, hands. Oh, that worked. I feel like I always overthink how to draw hands. Now to draw another hand. Why did I make my story with human characters? That is the question I should be asking myself. If I don't want to draw hands so much, why did I make a story involving humanoid characters? How many worlds do you have now, Self? Because I know you do a lot of world building. And language building within those worlds. If anything, your ability to world build is actually kind of... It's impressive, but kind of terrifying. In a good way, though. Do you have any fun things you want to share about the current world building, or is it all a secret for now? Yeah, that hand wasn't too bad. I actually decided that this chapter is going to be shorter than most of them, but by shorter, it's still like 35 frames. I don't know how to make just a short and sweet update for a webtoon, but this is short for one of my updates. Not much dialogue happens in this episode. It's mostly just a stare down between Allie and Uxthapia. Let's see, do I have her cheek popping out and then this, or do I do the hair over top? I think her cheek should be popping out. Ooh, I like that concept of language-based magic. That does kind of rhyme how some sects of witchcraft operate, though. Now, there's some people that will chant entirely in Latin for their spells. So have you developed the magic system for your world yet, or is it still figuring out the language and then you'll figure out the system from that? I think I drew the eye crooked to the head. So that is the head on straight, so... No, it's not crooked, I just need to make the pupil on par. Class of 400 individuals upwards to 400 at the time. Can use 2 elements for beyond normal people. Oh, that is interesting. So, like, is there a certain rule to mixing the 2 different elements, or just, like, any of the 2, and if you want to expand further, you learn how to manifest the energy through the ancient tongues? Is that how it works? I always find magic systems to be the most fascinating part about fantasy world building, because it's so creative what people come up with. I know with my story, Destination Unknown, it used to be that everyone had powers, and I just didn't want to deal with the world building aspect, so I kind of just threw it back into a way ancient point in history in which I wouldn't have to deal with that for a while. But then I started making Expedition Uncharted, and then I finally had to deal with the magic system outside of the Guardians. But here's a fun fact. Cetiline used to have, like, psychic abilities. Like, I forget what his specific power was called in the elemental system. Yeah, I just realized I had this perspective very wrong. Oh, crap. Okay. Oh, 1 sec. But I forget what it was called, but he had, like, the ability to communicate telepathically, and he could, like, move things with his mind, but I forget what that stemmed off from. But Akita's specific element was spirit. Actually, I totally forgot to mention it in my update video, but one of the funny things about Akita is she was technically a dream demon, was her classification. Like, she wasn't even a real person. in the story until sometime in the earlier development when I decided to make it an animated series. I went, okay, we're gonna physically incarnate her now. But I know my elemental system was very, very different in the past than what I ended up on. Okay, something's still really off about this, but oh well. It's a webtoon, and there's gonna be like no dialogue, so they're just gonna breeze past this frame, if anything. Find it sad that YouTube doesn't allow you to play copyrighted music. I'd love to listen to music on stream. But oh well, we get the void with my voice. Although normally I just actually draw in silence, so it's not like it's much different from how I usually go about things. Ooh, I like that philosophy behind it. The idea that you'd be more in tune to something of your own personality fits, but like a lot of people's personalities can shift over time too. So is it more like your nature, or could your specific affinity for magic alter if something happened in your life that completely changed the trajectory of how you view things and your ideals? Yeah, I don't really listen. Like, okay, sometimes I'll listen to podcasts, but then I'll pause them if I'm like getting up or something, and then I forget to turn them back on, and then I've been drawing in silence for like 3 hours. Most commonly happened when I was doing animation though, because I'd have to listen to the beats or the audio, and then I'd forget to turn things back on. I really need to actually get down to producing my own original music. I have plenty of stuff. It's just actually figuring out the background tracks, because then I wouldn't have to worry about copyright. Hello there, Gold. How are you? And I do plan to be live at least once a week. I had I came down with something for almost 2 weeks. In fact, the last time I streamed 2 weeks ago, I actually did wake up with a very, like, and I mean an extremely sore throat, but it went mostly away after a couple hours, and I thought, okay, maybe it was a fluke. Nope. No, it wasn't. I ended up coming down with something that was extremely nasty. But I'm back now. I'm very happy to be back. I actually have a few ideas for some short animations on the channel. But we'll just see how that goes, because I really do need to finish Expedition Uncharted before I focus on anything else. Well, season 1 of Expedition Uncharted specifically. That sounds like a nice plot mechanism, self. Especially, you could even have the main character or the main character's um, acquaintances or allies. Something very traumatic happens to them, and a big part of the plot would be them adapting to a new magic style or something. Lots you can do with it. In my narrative, which is like Artaxi's teachings specifically on the eternal light, what happened to the magic system is in Destination Unknown, it only exists in the artifacts from the eternal light specifically. And so only 7 of those characters have the ability to wield it. But in Expedition Uncharted, there's more emphasis on the eternal darkness and what that means for everyone. Because the eternal light gets pretty much redistributed into the stardust, so kids are born with special abilities, basically, and people then turn to, well, tap into what is known as the eternal darkness to do their own version of what the eternal light would offer, and that's one of the underlying conflicts in the comic. Oh, I could not finish the whole thing, dude. Oh my gosh, it is such a long story, and it wasn't supposed to be. I actually thought they were going to end up on Life's Island by chapter 10 when I started outlining it almost 4 years ago. And then now that is season 4. That's how much ended up expanding. It was supposed to be they find Mizra on the ship. She's not supposed to be there, but they already are setting sail, and it was going to be like a montage of things, and then they end up on the island. And now there's just so much stuff that happens in between. Lozakron wasn't even supposed to be a big character in it either, just more of the reasoning behind Mizra wanting to explore the world, but then he ended up getting a larger role. But man, it is way too long of a story. I only, as of right now, plan to tell the first 2 seasons. And then if it ends up taking off after that, I would continue it, but if not, I'd be focusing on other things until there's more attention. Because again, I'm not done with Destination Unknown. I changed Allie's outfit. What did I change it to? It's like, I feel like she has some sort of like sweatshirt she has hanging off. Apparently, I drew this on the wrong layer. Oh boy. Oh, wait, never mind. Never mind. That's Oxapia. I can totally draw on layers. Eh. Yeah, she wears shorts now too, so I think it's just a matter of her shorts coming out like that. One of these days I'll get back into animation though. I mean, considering there shouldn't be too many chapters left for Expedition Uncharted Season 1. That should be sooner than later. But we'll see how my life plays out. Since every time I think I'm going to have time to do stuff, I don't. In fact, I have to help my brother move into a new place tomorrow. So there goes my day off. And any potential opportunity to draw or do practically anything else. And then, before too long, I'll get to have a nephew. So that's a whole other can of worms to worry about. Oh, the magic system in my story in general. I'll just call the story itself Destination Unknown. That can be the overarching title for everything that encapsulates the story on Bolin. Yet the magic system is regressed, is the best way to put it. It's supposed to be that everyone has magic, but the seven spirits didn't necessarily surrender their powers quite yet, though it's also supposed to occur that way. Basically, each of the seven spirits have a different section of the story that focuses on them. In Destination Unknown specifically, it's Artixie's domain and the element of fire. Though I say Artixie, whereas Artixie was never supposed to be like a literal character being described, but I needed her to fix a plot hole with Akita, so she ended up coming back, and then I regretted having my channel name as Artixie. But I use her to explain what the spirits are, but the story itself is about how the element works and operates, what it represents, and then explaining to when the elemental system is poured out onto everyone, the different functions of the different spirits, because you only have, now it's only one element per person, but as the story progresses, it'll become more integrated. But in Expedition Uncharted, it's the state in which there are, what's a good way to put it? In which there are people under the age of 27 have powers, but anyone older than that doesn't, because that's how it worked. And right now, it's more of the generational divide, but over time it's supposed to end up as everyone, and then it just gets more and more complicated. But I'm likely never going to get past Expedition Uncharted in the story. But how it evolved is more that it just was pushed back in time, so I don't have to really think as much about the complexities unless I decide to go all the way to the end of the story. Well, that's actually one of the big plot points. There's a character, he shows up in chapter 6 in the comic. His name is Pamajo, and he is kind of, people might peg him to be the bigoted old man, but part of the point is there is this sort of quote-unquote unfairness in the world, and it's based on what sort of happened in Destination Unknown's finale, which I'm not going to get into right now. But Akita kind of does something, and that's what causes this divide, but it's also supposed to occur to kind of bring out the true thoughts and sort of bring about a specific event. Like even the pirates I've been designing the past two streams, they are the ones who think that it does belong to everyone, which is right. It is supposed to be poured out onto everyone. Just they're unfortunately in this time period where the rules of the world don't allow it to be. But they do have a part of the creator's spirit on them. But again, that's something Allie explains very soon in the comics, so I keep having to shut myself up about it. But it's extremely obvious when she will explain it. Be like, oh, well, why did you not want to say it? I'm like, I don't want to say it because the character's about to mention it in the comic. If this was more like early development for EU, I'd totally explain what it is, but it's not. We're just getting to a point in the story where things are about to be naturally explained that I just kind of am like, I'll shut up. Okay, what is the perspective on this? Should it be that way, or should it be that way? I think it's this way. Hello, Jericho. How are you? You know what? I just realized I like totally went into a completely different topic during that. I was going to explain the reasoning behind the eternal darkness in relation to Self's personality thing. So there are 13 aura crystals, and we see Artixie in the current state that I draw her as my persona. She has the she has one of those specific crystals, but that is something she talks about where it's not supposed to be split up. The spirits will tell any of the characters who listen to them in the story that you have to match your natural abilities to the different basically like aura or soul color that you resonate with. Whereas Artixie says it's like, no, you're supposed to be like, she's like, no, it's supposed to be all of them together. It's supposed to be the rainbow, but the rainbow is clear. But, if I try to explain, oh, the rainbow is clear, and and you guys might know what I'm talking about. I'm referring to a prism, like scientifically, but you think about it as you being in a descended world and hearing things at face value. That's what Artixie's message gets misunderstood in the story. But Artixie's also one of the different spirits having some sort of, like, knowledge they're trying to deliver. This is just her specific domain about the crystals the spirits constantly talk about, trying to match powers to your quote-unquote soul color is something that's leading them down a different path. Oh, I have to draw hands again. Okay, let's figure this out. Okay, I know hands don't bend just in two, they bend in threes. Okay. That looks awful though. Okay. This here is why it's important to refine your sketches you are uncertain about, otherwise you just cry. Magic is gay in the universe. I mean, if you want to go into the definition of gay, I'd say creation is spawned out of the idea of, something very jolly and stuff. Like that whole idea that creation is colorful. Therefore, if you want to use the like literal definition of gay, heck yeah. There is a joke in my story where I just say there is nothing more cursed than being involved in a romantic plotline. I feel like it's just my natural instinct to avoid thinking about those things that I just end up making the craziest scenarios to make it so I don't have to focus on it. But yeah, if you incarnate onto Volan and you want to find romance, you better be prepared to work for it. Oh, this hand didn't turn out too bad. I don't know what I was so afraid of. Oh, poor Allie. So, what have you guys been up to the past couple weeks? Any fun news or stories to share? You best be prepared if you're gonna incarnate onto Volan to suffer if you want romance. I don't know why that happens to everyone with a romantic plotline, but it's. I mean, I'll explain one thing with it. Let's look at Cetylene and Cynthia, for example. They're probably the oldest canon couple in my story, and yet I split them apart for a whole decade in which the world thinks Cetylene is dead. Cynthia, however, being her very much, if I don't see something with my own eyes, I don't believe itself, is not convinced unless she sees the body. But they spend a whole decade not being able to see each other. And Cetiline is imprisoned by his own brother. That's actually something Oxtapia talks about in the Valentine's Day special very briefly. But I mean, they do eventually end up together, and they whether they live happily, I guess that depends. They have children, and well, you know how children can be. No, better be prepared to work for romance if you want romance in my story. No, I don't know why I designed Allie to have just a little tie on top when it really should have been like on both sides to represent her ears in her griffin form, but oh well. I can just change her hairstyle next season or something. We don't normally see this form on her though, so who knows how much she'll use it. Normal romance is fine. Well, according to all the different romantic plot lines in my story, it's apparently not so fine. It's just a gateway to suffering. Why am I struggling to draw her sun symbol? Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's literally any character in which something doesn't go horribly wrong in the romantic plotline. Yeah, I don't. If I thought about it at length, maybe Ray and Nalian, but I also think they're more together for like cultural reasons or the fact that Nalian really needed for the sake of reproduction an heir. Like, okay, actually, here's a really funny fact. I've debated on making a video about just fun facts about the Guardians, but Aphliana, she has a daughter. That's Queen Shizuru, who is mentioned in Expedition Uncharted. The problem is, I still have no idea who the father is. My brain just doesn't think about these things until I'm like, huh, I guess that would have to work. So my brain has been trying to scramble and think, okay, but who could Aphliana have possibly done the deed with? And I'm just kind of coming to the terms of, I don't know, maybe Shizuru just appeared. Maybe that's what happened. I don't have a vendetta against romance. It's just that for some reason, every time I have some portion of a romantic plot line, bad things happen. And I think it's just my subconsciousness doesn't want to think about it. And it boggles my mind when I think about it. Like, even, let's do, like, Skirta and Vinu for a second. I'd say they probably have, for the most part, between the two of them, a good and healthy relationship. The problem is it's Kamaris, and Kamaris isn't monogamous, so the issues stem from Guvenok. So, like, they could have been happy if they weren't born in Kamaris. Maybe. But then again, I guess Kamaris is the only place in which you can probably um have that lesbian dynamic without other people questioning, but yeah, like even there's always a caveat. There is always a caveat for all of the different characters who are like paired together. Something's always going wrong. And Cynthia and Cetiline, for them, they at least end up with their happily ever after, but it's to the point of a ton of suffering. And I feel horrible for them. But you know, it works out, but again, 10 years, 10 years of them being apart and still staying loyal to each other despite that. It's it's a lot. That's a lot to ask for someone. And I every time I look at it and go, I'd love to have characters where there's just a happy little cheesy romance. And you know, that's how it stays, but still I have not been led to write any character like that so far. So until that day occurs, it remains usually some form of tragedy. Oh wait, no, these are braids, so she should technically have, yep, there we go. Should be more like that. I actually have a quiz for when I do eventually bring back my Discord server that will sort people into one of 12 different classification groups within my story. And just like my whole rant just now, there's certain things where it's like, well, this will be good if you incarnate here, but at the same time, there is this whole thing that might ruin your entire worldview on the matter. So, I think if I could pick any place to incarnate on my own world, though, I'd probably pick Mediterranean, because its climate would be most accustomed to what I'm used to. Plus, if I was born in southern Mediterranean, I might not be bothered by the monarchy. But that's not where Artixie is. Artixie's in Archielo. Oh, I forgot this is a mere reflection of the above. Okay. I'll do that later. More hands! What was I thinking this chapter? into Slytherin. Oh boy. Who would be Slytherin? Who would be the equivalent of Slytherin? Um, I guess it depends on your own individual, like, perceived morals on the matter. Do you want to be colonists? Do you want to be one of two tribes that got entirely wiped out? Do you want to live in a kingdom under tyranny? Do you want to live in a community where the entire community raises your kids and the concept of family is just the entire community? Like, do you want to be a gay fish? That's another one. But with the expense of you'd be trapped into polygamous dynamics. There's a caveat for all of them. I feel like people will look at different worldviews differently given their own life experiences and who they might sympathize with more. I guess I don't get the reference of Kanye and Gay Fish. Is it like a song lyric or something? I just realized I drew this as the pinky when it should be the pointer finger. Am I going to fix it though? Probably not. You know, my brother may have known that reference and he may have shown it to me, but I may not have computed. He watches South Park pretty religiously. The only thing I really remember from South Park is when we were in Scouts during the Pinewood Derby. I saw the Pinewood Derby episode, and that one had one of the guys dressed up as Princess Leia, and what was it? They like stormed into some sort of nuclear facility or something. It was absolutely unhinged. But South Park's humor is just a bit too much for me for the most part. But I will say that the song Blame Canada! Blame Canada! Like, I have listened to that multiple times. My brother did show me that movie, but I don't think I watched it all the way through. Yeah, South Park's humor is a bit extreme for me, but you do have to understand in terms of milestones for entertainment, if it wasn't for South Park, we wouldn't have a lot of standards we had today. Their first episode, I believe it was, that they tried to air, the people who worked with censoring to make it TV ready said they couldn't have the S word. So their solution to that was to put it literally everywhere. So the entire episode would have to be banned. that's why the S word is allowed to be said on public television now in the TV-14 rating. Actually, we're getting up to a point in the story where Akun, censored, he drops the F bomb. It's actually one of the episodes I'm looking forward to the most because it's fun. We get to see Vex again. I'll actually pull up Vex on the screen because I love her as a character. Just need to find where it is. Oh, wrong one. Wrong one. This trio. This is Vex right here. My little lizard. I love her so much. Because she does something, causes Akun to be very uncomfortable. but it's one of my favorite parts of the story. It's like, hello, Akun, it's your inner demons. My inner demons! That's a joke my editors really liked too. But it's funny in context. It doesn't sound too funny when I explain why I'm looking forward to it. It's one of those things that just pays off over a couple episodes because Akun doesn't know what's going on, which is why it's kind of funny. A scaly. Is that what they're called in the furry community, Self? Well, a bit of lore about Vex. She was actually a non-verbal species until the events of Destination Unknown's finale. In Expedition Uncharted, I think it's episode 12 or 13, Akyun talks about the communication barrier, which determines whether it's ethical to consume a species or not. And Vex is one of those characters that kind of pokes a hole in their established code of ethics because she's a species that can now speak due to the creator's spirit being distributed into the stardust. She's also a character that gets a larger role the more I think about her. But right now she's been captured by these no good dirty pirates. And yes, I do make these noises even when I'm not streaming if I do something wrong, like move the wrong layer. And I'm just gonna redo all of this because... Oh, I'm on the wrong layer! There we go. One of my biggest mistakes with Expedition Uncharted for the that for the first few episodes is I drew it on the exact canvas size they recommended, so I'd never be able to print it unless I redo the chapters in and of its entirety. And I say that now because I'm so zoomed in on this, and yet, like, I'm not really seeing too much of the pixelated stuff. And it kind of trips me out because my entire life I'm so used to drawing on a small canvas in comparison. But it makes me wonder why I didn't do this sooner. Yes, I squawk and hiss a lot. Even at work, in fact, sometimes I don't even realize I'm doing that. And I'll, like, oftentimes I'll, like, meow or something. And I won't realize I'm doing that. And then someone will hear me making weird noises. Like, sometimes it's like, and I'll just, like, do something like that, muttering under my breath. And someone's like, do you hear that animal in here? And I'm like, that animal, it might be me. I'm sorry. There was one time I was pushing carts in the parking lot, and someone's like, do you hear that cat? I wonder where it is, but it was actually just me. But that wasn't necessarily unintentional. More that when I have excess energy, it comes out in the form of weird animal noises for some reason. And cat is a common one. Just go, when I used to go to the chiropractor, I would hiss because it was so painful. And that's what the chiropractor would remember me for, the person that hissed. Not a furry. Oxapia's bag is missing. Oh no. Did I make it missing above? No, it's still there, so. Hi, Ark. How are you? There we go. I am tired, but that is nothing new. Thanks for asking. I mean, sometimes that happens. Someone stole Perk's entire tail. Let me pull up Perk's rep sheet real quick. You see how this guy, this lovely guy right here, has this lovely tail. It doesn't exist in the comic. I completely forgot it in every single shot that he's in, even though it's in the storyboards. So I'm debating on going back in and adding it after I finish up everything in season 1. Or we're just going to make him tailless, but I definitely prefer him having a tail. But stuff disappearing is quite common for me. Like Lily, I think I mentioned it last stream. Lily's aura crystal is just gone in the Destination Unknown pilot because I was so lazy. But that is the one thing that should have not been left out. But it's in the first storyboards. The problem is the second pass of storyboards didn't include her crystal, so I forgot about it. If we see typos, oh, what did I typo this time? Because I know there's a ton of typos in Expedition Uncharted. I'm just too lazy. You're welcome to let me know about it, though. You just know how I am. Typos are a part of my being. I would blame my dyslexia, but I think it's just my laziness at this point. I've spelled Allie's name wrong twice. It says like Alaya, which technically, as I said before, it's supposed to be pronounced like Elijah or Elijah, but I just wasn't thinking when I phonetically wrote things because I often it's the spelling that's important to me. The sounds too, but like I do like a combination of both, and then I completely forgot that in her specific domain, the Y should make a J sound. And actually, it's kind of the joke behind the nickname Allie is she's like, that's not how you pronounce it, but Kamogi doesn't care when he gives nicknames to people. Maybe Allie wanted to be called Al. That'd be kind of funny, actually. I actually have an Alja plushie. Winter got it for me for, I think, my birthday one year. But I don't have a cam corner, so I can't show it in chat. Yes, yes, I understand that this is the perfect example as to why I need to actually focus on the languages. I'm just lazy. When it comes to world building, my focus is always on how does the creator operate? How does it function to make the plot points come together and the characters move into place that I kind of just forget that I need to build the lore of the world physically on the world. Because I can tell you all about how my entire story is basically based on astrophysics and Schrodinger's cat and a bunch of scientific theories about the cosmos that 99% of it is just not relevant to the characters but important to the structure of the story. But if I like actually put that focus into, language making, we'd have some interesting stuff I could share, but nope. I'm always just like this is how everything operates, but not that that's important to the narrative itself. Maybe that's why I made Artixie incarnate, so I could actually like talk about some of the big, hardly relevant aspects behind the creation of the story. I feel like I just need to work with someone that focuses on those sorts of details. But alas, I just like to run head first into these things and that I run into issues later, such as the pronunciation of Allie's name. Did I draw Oxapia's sandals wrong? Yes, I did. I think she has that on her sandal, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm adding something that shouldn't be there. What is Oxapia's model sheet? This is how I know it's been a while since I drew Oxapia. Oh, nope, there's not supposed to be that there. It's just that. I'd say the big downfall of having a larger cast comic is you kind of get comfortable drawing a character because you draw them for a few chapters in a row and then they disappear for a bit and you have to relearn how to draw them all over again. Like, when's the last time I drew Mizra? It's been a while. But she should be popping up after Hibari speaks to these pirates, which will be the second part of chapter 24. This is just the first part of chapter 24. Dun, da, ba, da, ba. I love how I start out my line art with like very serious, trying to make it look proper, and then I get to this state where I'm kind of just winging it. Like, that's definitely not how a foot should look, but I don't care anymore. Now, Allie's footwear, I don't remember how I drew that. She only has one full body frame so far. Okay, I'll be right back. Why am I not surprised to see the start of a revolution in my chat? Oh boy. Nope. Overruled. No anarchy. Figured out what Allie's shoes are. I don't know why I didn't do that earlier. I ended up getting my phone to reference instead of trying to pull it up from my computer directly. I hath returned, yup. I am here. So, that's a very big revolution that you guys had. In all seriousness, though, that is kind of how it operates with my characters sometimes. There was one time I was at work, and Oxapia completely changed the plot on me. I went, "Oh, you think you're so smart? I have specific mechanisms in place that make it so that thing you think you can do, you can't do that." And then I realized she found a loophole, and I went, "Well, according to my lore, I have to honor this loophole. I don't want to, though." And that is why the story is so much longer than I expected. The characters have a mind of their own. I just realized I have two segments of the story in a row in which I have two friends holding their hands with each other as a means of emotional comfort. Or I guess Allie is just holding her wrist down. But I'm like, what is with me? I hate drawing hands, and yet I've done some very complicated stuff the past few chapters. This is not a clear storyboard of what's going on either. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's definitely not what's supposed to be going on there. Oh boy.
Maybe this? Or isn't her hand supposed to be... Yeah, her hand is supposed to be facing downwards. Why am I way overthinking this? I think I drew the board completely wrong, is the problem. hand is over the other hand, so. Okay, so Allie's. This arm is the one that reaches further. Okay. I feel like Oxapia's arms are like extremely long now. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Something is off, but I don't think people are going to really pay attention too much to details of the matter. feel like her skirt is way too short, but I am too lazy to change it. Okay, on to page 4 out of 5. Oh, behold, a frame I'm not too sure about keeping in here, but it's there just in case. I'm starting to have that problem in my pinky finger again where it's getting a bunch of pressure, making it difficult to draw, so I might be able to only do a few more frames before I have to call it quits before I do damage to my finger. Actually, that's part of the problem I have been having since 2019. I don't know if it's a pinched nerve or just sign of like repetitive strain or fatigue, but there was a time where I couldn't draw any more than half an hour at a time because it was so painful. And if I would go over that half an hour, it would take me like a full week to recover from the pain, which is part of what caused me to lose motivation with drawing. If you guys have been around for years, you might remember that I would do a lot of stuff on stream in just a couple sittings, whereas the problem in my hand now makes it so that I can't really do that anymore. And since I used to work in creative bursts like that, not being able to do that has made it rather challenging. I may switch it up to trying to compose a bit though, since I don't quite want to kill the stream early. So we'll just see how it goes. Have been working on trying to revive Athliana's theme, which is something I composed back in middle school and high school, but unfortunately it died in a computer crash when I was in high school, so I lost the score. And every time I've tried to compose it again, I just haven't been able to figure it out in the same way, which has saddened me. Ooh, it's hurting my wrist too. Yeah, I probably should put this away. And I don't want to. I'm on the drive right now. My goal was to finish the line art for this on stream. But if it's affecting my wrist too, I don't want to injure myself again. It's never fun. Yeah, I'm gonna have to call it quits here for now, but I'll just modify the stream to show Muse score. Oh, I need to open it up. Athliana's March. Let's see. Let's see. CSP, let's do window capture, Muse score. There we go. Okay, now let's figure this out. Oh, I need to... Oh, frick. I should probably change my input to have headphones instead. Oh, wait, no. I should be able to just plug my headphones into the speaker, and it still should do what I need it to do. Oh, boy. And I guess the question is, did this work? No, is only one side of my headphone working? It is. Man, my headphones, they. That's just sad. These are expensive headphones too, but one of the ears no longer works. Okay, I think I was gonna start with the melody here, continue with it, and then I'll expand from there. Da da da. One and a four. One and four. One. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Ba, da da da. 1, da, da da. Da 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 da. Let's see. I wonder if I should put that on the 4 instead of the 1. Da 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 da. Da da. Wanda. Unless this should be a quarter, no. Da 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 da. Da, da. You know, I wish I had my recorder because I would know what these notes are on my recorder. Da 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 da. That's not how it goes. I don't know why my brain isn't thinking it. Da, 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 da. da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Ba da 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 da. Da da da. Da da da. 1, 2, and 3. Ba da 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 da. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. No dotted. Da 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 da. Yep, music. Da ba ba. up a beat. Well, why not I try that real quick? Though maybe that's a bad idea to move it up a beat. Never mind. I think I'll just end the stream here. Thank you all for coming. Have a good day.